Okay, listeners, we've got something special now that we think that you are going to enjoy hearing about. There is a brand new interactive film called The Gallery, which has had some screenings and it's going to have a few more. And we thought today we would actually get the director, Paul Raschid, on the phone to talk a little bit about what an interactive film is and to tell us a little bit about how The Gallery came into being as well. Paul, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Dave.
Now, Paul, I guess the big question that everyone's going to want to know straight off the bat is, what is an interactive film and how does it work for the audience?
So an interactive film, for all intents and purposes, is a normal film, but intermittently there will be choices that the protagonist has to make that the audience gets to make. So there will be options that appear at the bottom of the screen, and you will have a timer in which to make the choice, and with it, whichever choice you do will be how the story gets built, and there will be repercussions and immediate consequences and consequences down the line, and it can really sort of customize a story. And obviously Bandersnatch, the Black Mirror episode, was kind of the most famous example of this format, which came out in December 2018, I think.
So is it
the way
Sorry, go ahead.
So for what we're doing with the gallery, the cinema screen, the way it would work in the cinema is the choices would come up and there wouldn't be a timer. So the choices would come up, the screen would pause for a bit, and the audience are given glow sticks before they go in. And everyone who wants to vote for the first option raises their glow stick. Everyone who wants to vote for the second or third options raises their glow stick, and whichever is the most popular is how it's decided. So that's how the cinema screenings work.
So it's kind of like those novels that my generation grew up with, the choose your own adventure kind of novels, but on a screen. Is that right?
It's exactly that, Dave.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like that's how I write the scripts as well. The scripts literally read like a choose your own adventure book. So instead of it being you'll remember as a choose your own adventure book, you'll get to the bottom of a page, and it's, if you want to go to this, turn to page so and so. If you want to do that, go to page so and so. With this, it's exactly the same. You're on scene 2, you get to the bottom. Option A, go to scene 3. Option B, go to scene 4. It's literally exactly the same as that, but in film form.
Yeah, it doesn't do that annoying thing that the novels did, where it's you died, like, and just end abruptly. Does it? Like, is there ones where that can actually happen towards the end, or is it more it does lead on to something else so that you get that full cinema experience?
Yes, so that was a kind of a decision I always have to make whenever I'm approaching whether you have what they call in the gaming world fail states,
Yeah.
Or early deaths, or however you want to call them, where you could be 20 minutes in and you make the wrong decision, your character dies or your story ends. The gallery doesn't have any of those. The gallery has 18 separate endings that no matter what decisions you make, they will, even if they're all terrible decisions, they will take you down a very terrible playthrough, but they will get you to a conclusion. But along the way, other characters can die, things can get destroyed, things can go wrong, or things can go well, or characters can survive based on the decisions you make. So, there are no fail states in that sense in the gallery. There are in other things I've done, but you won't need to worry about that. It won't get too frustrating in that sense.
Yeah. So from a screenwriting point of view, how does it change the way that you sit down and work on the script when there's all different decisions through the film?
Well, it's mainly volume, to be honest, and just, I guess, the process. Usually as screenwriters anyway will work with, there's that old cliche of, screenwriters with loads of post-it notes all over their wall trying to work out the structure of the story and stuff. It's kind of similar to that, but I start with a flowchart. So imagine all those post-it notes, but they are connected together in kind of an intricate web that kind of branches out and goes off in different directions and then sometimes comes back together. So I really start with that flowchart, and I really need to get that flowchart down before I even start looking at a script, writing a script, because, the structure to these interactive films is so integral, and it needs to be so watertight before you actually put pen to paper and start writing the screenplay, so to speak. So, and then obviously, you have to write a lot more, because you need to tell multiple different stories, whereas in a linear film, you're just telling one story, 90-page story or whatever, what have you.
What sparked that initial interest for you to do an interactive film? Was there something there that made you want to do this?
Well, it was two things really. I mean, I was initially, I come from a filmmaking background, so I was originally a traditional linear filmmaker. But even when I was making traditional linear films, I was always interested in experimenting with structure and form, with fragmented timelines and, alternate realities and all of that kind of stuff. So I was actually given the opportunity to direct an interactive film in 2019 by a producer called John Giwahamu and Jade Alexander, who were making a sci-fi interactive film called The Complex. And they saw my previous linear normal film called White Chamber, which had played in a few festivals around the world. So they'd seen that and thought I was a good fit for this interactive. So they offered me that chance, and I was like, oh, I've always been a casual gamer, so I'm familiar with those kinds of story structures, and I played the choose your own adventure books growing up, and whenever I write scripts, I'm interested in these kind of fragmented timelines. So it was kind of just a coalescing of opportunity and interest on the other hand.
So tell us a little bit about your casting, because you've been able to put together a great cast. How did you go about that process, and did you write any of these parts with those actors or actresses in mind?
Well, I mean, this has been a script that I've been working on for many, many years, so I wouldn't say that there was anybody especially that I had in mind for any of the roles. But when we came to, I worked with a casting director called Heather Baston, who's absolutely incredible over here in the UK, and she'd worked on my other films, so we had a really good rapport working together. So she got on it, but I remember we had a list. I was looking through the list, and George Blagden is an actor whose work I've been really familiar with for many years, with Vikings and Versailles, and Anna Popplewell as well. An actress who I've been extremely familiar with for many, many years, and I've always recommended. So when you see their names on a list, I kind of honed in on them and was like, I'd like them to, I'd really like them to read the script, and if they like it, I'd love to get in a meeting with them. And luckily they clicked with the script, and we clicked, we clicked personally and professionally. So it kind of, it was quite a fluid process actually. It kind of, this just one thing led to another, and I'm so blessed that we got those two in our leads.
Definitely. Now, as I mentioned before, the film has had a couple of screenings. How did it go with the audiences, especially because it's so different to something that we would normally see in cinema? How did it go with audiences?
It's been really incredible. I mean, we screened at the Dinard Film Festival in France in October. We screened in another film festival in Rennes, France in January. Last week I was in Leeds at the Leeds Independent Directions Film Festival here in the UK. And we're doing some screenings in this month. So, and each one I've seen a real spectrum of age range, which has been really interesting to me. That you've got sort of 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds who are very familiar with video gaming and new forms of storytelling. But especially in Dinar, we had a lot of older viewers come and watch who literally embraced the format just as much as the younger audience. So it's something that I feel like people are really enjoying because of how different it is. But it's not so different that it takes you away from the general lean back experience of watching a film. There's an immersion with regards to and an agency that you give them with regards to the glow sticks that I feel everyone really enjoys. But they can also sit back and then watch how their decisions unfold as well. So it's kind of a good balance between sort of immersive theatre, immersive cinema, as well as your traditional cinematic experience. So people so far so good.
And where do you think the film will end up? Like, are you hoping that you'll be able to take this film worldwide eventually?
Well, yes, it's funny you mentioned that, Dave, because last week while I was up in Leeds facilitating the screening, we were also screened at another film festival in Lyon in France called Ciné O'Clock, and that was the first time I'd sent I'd entrusted the process with another team.
Yeah.
And what they did was they took a PlayStation and they plugged that into their projector and they just played it off the PlayStation. So that showed it was possible that we can, there's scalability in this, and that would be the dream, for this to become an alternate kind of cinema experience that people can have, because it's we release on the gaming platforms, so it's available on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and as an app on your phone. But my dream would also be to have this exhibited in cinemas and on streaming platforms, and the tech is moving in the direction to hopefully make that a reality very, very soon. So yeah, I'd love these. My dream is for these kinds of this format to just kind of go anywhere and everywhere. And appeal to a broad audience.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. We're seeing cinema change here a lot in Australia at the moment, post-COVID, as cinema chains are trying to get people back into cinemas. We've seen the use of 4D, which originally was just something that you had at Movie World here up on the Gold Coast, but now we've got cinemas installing 4D cinemas, so you can go and watch Top Gun while your seat moves and you get water sprayed in your face and things like that. Could you see this format being something that cinemas around the world might embrace to try and encourage people back to cinemas again?
That's actually really interesting, though. I didn't know that 4D was getting rolled out to mainstream films like that, widespread. Yeah.
Yeah, so could you see that for the gallery as well? Could you see that format being expanded out into cinemas around the world?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've really hit the nail on the head there. That I think audiences they want interactivity, they want immersion, they want agency in their stories now more so than ever. And I think you want to give them something, an experience that goes beyond just sort of the traditional lean back experience that they want. And just like 4D, the interactive film and the gallery being hopefully the first of those is absolutely that kind of experience. It's very much a communal group kind of experience when those decisions happen and the glow sticks are going up and everyone's seeing what everyone else is voting for. You can hear murmurs, you can hear a little bit of whispering, and sometimes you can hear sort of groans if the vote hasn't gone the way that people want. So there's kind of this sort of communal group audience participation element of it that people really enjoy. So absolutely, I could definitely see it becoming a more mainstream alternative form of viewing cinema.
Awesome. So Paul, if people who are listening right now want to find out where they can go to see the gallery next, where is the best place for them to check it out? Has the film got any social media sites or anything that people should be following?
Well, yes. So you could follow my social media. I'm always posting about it. So my Twitter and Instagram handles are at Paul Raschid, PaulRaschid. You can also check out the company website, which is averyfilms.co.uk, which is AVIARY and if any of the listeners are in London at the end of this month, we are having a series of screenings as a side event, as part of the London Games Festival, in the Genesis Cinema in Mile End, the Ealing Project in West London, the Phoenix Cinema in North London, and the Prince Charles Cinema in Leicester Square. So and hopefully more to come after that. So yeah, that's hopefully it's the beginning of something.
That sounds amazing. Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to want to check out the gallery, and thank you so much for doing something so different for cinema. I can't wait to be able to see it myself someday.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. It means a lot. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.